My son thought I didn't notice when he put something strange in my backpack. I put it in his car. He thought his old man was too tired, too slow, too busy fumbling with fishing hooks and aspirin bottles to notice his hand slip something strange into my backpack. But I saw everything. I moved it to his car when he turned away. 30 minutes later, the police were on our street, and my son still had no idea what I'd done. They say when your kids get older, you stop being the hero and start being the background. You become the man in the doorway, the wallet, the emergency contact. If you're lucky, you at least stay the one they call when a tire goes flat or a boiler dies at midnight. I used to be more than that once. I was a mechanic who could make an engine purr from a pile of rust, a weekend fisherman who could read the water, and a father who knew how to build a fort from old pallets and a half-broken tarp. My name is Walter Hayes, and at 58, my life had narrowed into routines: morning coffee, metal toolbox, creaking knees, quiet house. My son Liam was 24, clever in ways I never was, and stubborn in all the ways I recognized. He grew up with grease under his fingernails and math homework on the table, always bouncing between my world and one he was determined to build for himself. I thought that was a good thing. Until the distance between those two worlds turned into something I couldn't cross. It started small. Fewer dinners. Late texts. Can't make it tonight, Dad. Work stuff. Then new friends I didn't recognize. A slick black car idling at the curb. Laughter that didn't sound like his, at least not the boy I'd raised. The kind of laughter that has an edge, like it's part joke, part dare. The night this story really began, the air smelled like rain and gasoline. I'd spent the late afternoon in the shed sorting through my fishing gear. Pretending it was still a habit and not a memory I was trying to keep alive. Hooks, bobbers, old lines spooled like stories that never got finished. The radio hummed in the corner, soft classic rock that had aged with me. Liam had texted earlier that he was dropping by for a bit. That used to mean hours. Lately it meant 20 minutes and a half-charged phone he kept checking. I heard his car before I saw it, the hum of an engine that needed work, the little rattle near the front left tire I'd told him about twice. The gravel in the driveway shifted under the weight of something heavier than the sedan itself, whatever he'd been carrying around in his head these past months. Back here, I called, wiping my hands on an old rag as his footsteps came around the house. He appeared in the shed doorway, leaning there like he was trying out the pose. His hair was longer now, eyes ringed with the kind of tired you don't get from honest work. He smiled though. That same lopsided, boyish smile that had once been my morning alarm and my evening prayer. "Hey old man," he said. "You still collecting junk in here?" "Only the useful kind," I replied. "You hungry? I've got leftover stew in the fridge." He shook his head. "Can't stay long. Just wanted to check in." A lie, I thought, but I let it pass. When your children start lying, it's like watching them learn another language you never taught them. He stepped inside, looking around like he hadn't seen the place 1,000 times before. My tackle box sat open on the workbench, a faded blue thing with rusted clasps and stickers peeling off the side. Next to it, my old hiking backpack from the days when my knees still believed in mountains. "That's still holding together?" he asked, nodding at the pack. "Better than I am," I said. "I was thinking of heading out to the lake this weekend." I said it casually, rehearsed. An invitation disguised as small talk. "You could come with if you're not too busy being important." His jaw tightened for just a second. A flicker of guilt? Annoyance? It was getting harder to tell. "Yeah, maybe," he said. "Work's intense right now." He walked deeper into the shed, fingers brushing over tools, ropes, the chipped handle of a net. I noticed the way his shoulders were set, too straight, like he was trying to hold something in place inside himself. We talked about nothing for a few minutes: traffic, the neighbor's new dog, a game he'd watched. His voice was light, but his eyes kept cutting toward the backyard, the driveway, the world beyond the walls. That's when it happened. I had turned toward the shelves to grab a rag, my back half to him, when I caught the reflection in the small dusty window in front of me. Liam's hand moved quickly, not toward the tools or the radio or his phone, but toward my backpack. He pulled something from the inside pocket of his jacket. It was small, wrapped in dull gray plastic, tight as a fist. The kind of wrapping you see in movies, the kind that never means anything good. In the warped glass of the window, I watched him slip it into the front compartment of my backpack, his fingers careful, precise. Then his hand disappeared, and when I turned back around, he was leaning against the bench like nothing had happened. My heart didn't jump. It just tightened. Like someone had cinched a belt around my chest. My heart didn't jump. It just tightened. Like someone had cinched a belt around my chest. I'd worked around enough rough neighborhoods in my life to know what packages like that could mean. Drugs. Cash. Something worse. Or maybe nothing. Maybe just a stupid prank, a favor, something his new friends had convinced him to ferry. But why my backpack? Why not his own pockets, his car, his jacket? Earth to Dad, he said, snapping his fingers lightly. You okay? Yeah, I said slowly. Just thinking about the lake. He smirked. You and that lake. We talked a few minutes more, surface-level chatter that skimmed right over the dark current now swirling beneath my ribs. Every word he spoke split in my mind, one half hearing the sound, the other half dissecting it for intent, for fear, for an admission that wouldn't come. He checked his phone twice. I should go, he said finally. I've got somewhere to be. Of course you do, I thought. Leave so soon and you'll make the stew jealous, I said aloud. He laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. Next time, I promise. He turned toward the door, shoulders tense like they expected to be stopped. Like he was daring me to stop him. I didn't. Not yet. Hey kid, I called as he stepped back into the fading light. He glanced over his shoulder. Your car still sounds like it smoked a pack a day. Bring it by and I'll take a look before the engine decides it's had enough of you. He grinned. Yeah, sure. Then he was gone, footsteps crunching on gravel, car door slamming, engine coughing to life. The shed grew quiet again, the radio whispering to itself in the corner, the smell of oil and old wood folding around me like a hand. I stood perfectly still. When someone you love does something wrong right in front of you, there's a moment where time refuses to move. It just hangs there, waiting to see which version of you will step forward. The father who trusts or the man who can't afford to. It took me exactly 10 seconds to cross the shed. My fingers found the backpack zipper. I pulled it down slowly, breath held, as if noise alone could trigger the truth into something more permanent. There it was. A small brick of plastic wrapped, something dull gray and smooth about the size of my palm. No markings. No label. Just a tightly sealed secret sitting in the mouth of my backpack like a snake. I didn't touch it at first. Just stared at it while the late afternoon light crawled across the workbench. One part of my brain whispered excuses. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just some electronics component, a prank, some kind of surprise. Maybe you're overreacting because you watch too many crime shows and work with too many broken down people. Another part, the older part, the one that had survived layoffs, funerals, unpaid bills, and a wife who'd left when Liam was 16, said, "No. You know exactly what this looks like." Picked it up. It was heavier than it looked. Firm, solid. I turned it over in my hand, feeling the edges, the way the plastic stretched taut over whatever was inside. There was a slight chemical smell when I held it close, faint but sharp enough to make my nose wrinkle. I had choices right then. Call him back. Demand an explanation. Rip the thing open and confirm or deny, every fear racing in my head. Call the police. Call no one. Instead, I did something I'm still not sure I'm proud of. I put it in his car. It wasn't a clean, rational decision. It was a pulse, a reflex, the kind of move you make when years of doubt and suspicion have been quietly stacking up inside you like kindling. I told myself it was a test. A way to see exactly how deep he'd gone. How much of the boy I'd raised was still visible under the shadows he'd been walking with. I slid the package into my pocket and walked out of the shed, the air cooler now, the sky thinning into orange above the line of trees. Liam's car sat where he'd left it, engine ticking softly as the heat died. I approached it like a thief breaking into his own life. I'd had a key to his car ever since he bought it secondhand and I'd done the initial repairs. Just in case, I told him. Just in case turned out to be now. I unlocked the driver's door, heart beating in my throat, and slipped inside. The interior smelled faintly of cologne and energy drinks, a scent I'd come to associate with the version of him I didn't quite recognize. His backpack lay on the passenger seat, half-zipped. A hoodie crumpled on the floor. A fast food bag by the console, greasy and abandoned. I didn't use the backpack. I slid the package under the driver's seat, right beneath the metal rails, pushed it deep until it was almost flush with the carpet. Out of sight. Not gone. Just his. My hands shook when I pulled them back. What are you doing, Walter? Some frightened voice in me asked. Are you trying to ruin him? Save him? Prove something to yourself? I didn't have answers. Only the stubborn belief that secrets have a way of showing who they really belong to when given the chance. I locked the car and walked back to the house, the sound of the latch clicking shut echoing louder than it should have. Inside, the kitchen clock hummed its steady tick. The stew waited in the fridge, patient as always. I poured myself a cup of coffee instead, even though it was late enough that it would sit in my veins all night like electricity. I sat at the table, the old wood worn by years of elbows and homework and bills. My hand wrapped around the mug, but my eyes kept dragging to the window, to the driveway, to Liam's car. He'd said he had somewhere to be. I wondered what kind of place required him to smuggle packages in his father's backpack. Rain began to tap lightly against the glass. A slow, tentative drizzle, like the sky was rehearsing for a storm it hadn't fully committed to yet. 15 minutes passed. 20. My phone buzzed once with a news alert I ignored. The house felt too quiet, the kind of quiet that amplifies every creak, every sigh of settling wood into a possible omen. I caught my reflection in the window, lined face, gray beard. A man sitting opposite his own choices. I thought about Liam at 16, coming home with a split lip and insisting it was nothing, about his first paycheck and how he'd waved it like a victory flag, about the late-night arguments we'd had in the years after his mother left, both of us too raw to hear each other through the hurt. I also thought about the men I'd seen at the garage over the years, desperate eyes and shaky hands, whispering about debt, about mistakes, about one last job. It's all connected. About mistakes, about one last job. It's all connected, some part of me insisted. You don't go from fishing trips and homework to plastic wrap bricks by accident. Headlights swept across the front wall as a car turned into the driveway. For a split second I thought Liam had come back. Maybe he'd realized he'd dropped something. Maybe guilt had grown teeth and chased him all the way here. But it wasn't his sedan. It was a patrol car. The blue and white glided into my driveway like it had been here 100 times before. It hadn't. The sight of it made my stomach drop anyway. Its lights weren't flashing, but the presence was loud enough. 2 officers stepped out, rain beating on their hats and shoulders. One older with a serious walk. One younger scanning, absorbing. My mug clinked against the saucer as I set it down harder than I meant to. For a moment all I could think was, did someone see me? Did someone follow him here? Is this about the package? About my son? About me? I watched through the glass as they approached the door, their boots leaving dark prints on the wet path. The older one glanced at Liam's car, at the house, at the shed. Measuring. Calculating. Then they knocked. The sound thudded through the house like a verdict. I stood up on legs that didn't feel entirely mine and walked to the door, every step heavier than the last. My hand found the knob, paused. Beyond the thin wood, my past decisions and my son's present seemed to be lining up, waiting to be introduced. It occurred to me in that sliver of silence that whatever I'd done in that shed, whatever I'd moved from my world into his, had just crossed some invisible line. I opened the door. Mr. Hayes? The older officer asked, rain dripping off the brim of his cap. His eyes were steady, unreadable. Yes, I said, my voice sounding distant to my own ears. He nodded once. We need to ask you a few questions about your son. Behind him, the younger officer's gaze flicked again. To Liam's car. The rain picked up, tapping faster on the porch roof, as if the sky had finally decided on the storm. And standing there, with 2 officers on my doorstep and my son's secret under his driver's seat, I realized something with a clarity that cut like glass. Whatever was about to happen, I had just made myself part of it. Rainwater pooled at the officers' boots as they stepped inside, shaking the cold from their shoulders while my house absorbed their presence like something it had been dreading for years. The older one introduced himself as Sergeant Dwyer, square jaw, the kind of tired posture that said he'd seen too many midnight calls. The younger officer, Mason, hovered near the wall, eyes moving with a quiet alertness that reminded me of a stray dog assessing a yard before entering. Is Liam home? Dwyer asked, wiping rain from his brow with a gloved hand. No, I said. He left a little while ago. How long exactly? The question landed heavier than it should have. Precise. Intentional. I felt the weight of every minute that had passed since Liam slipped that plastic wrap thing into my backpack. Maybe an hour, I said. What's this about? Dwyer didn't answer right away. Instead, he scanned the room, the fishing rods mounted on the wall, the old picture frames, the coat rack by the door. His eyes paused on my boots muddy from the shed, then on my still steaming coffee. Finally, he spoke. We're looking for Liam in connection to an ongoing investigation. The words trembled in the air, rearranging my heartbeat. What kind of investigation? I asked, though a cold part of me already knew. Before he could answer, Mason stepped closer, his voice softer. We're not here to arrest anyone, Mr. Hayes. We just need to talk to him. See if he's safe. Safe. That word twisted something inside me. A bruise pressed too suddenly. Dwyer continued. Pressed too suddenly. Dwyer continued. We received reports about someone in a vehicle matching your son's car, leaving an industrial warehouse downtown. It's under surveillance. Known drug activity. We're checking all possible contacts. My throat went dry. My hand instinctively twitched toward the window, toward the driveway where Liam's car sat quietly, its secrets tucked beneath the driver's seat. Rain slid down the glass in crooked trails, distorting the reflection of the squad car parked outside. I swallowed hard. And you think he's involved? Dwyer didn't blink. We're not ruling anything out, Mason added. A witness saw a young man exchanging something with individuals on site. The description loosely matches your son. The house seemed to shrink, the walls pulling closer, the air thickening with accusation and something worse, confirmation. Not of guilt but of possibility. Of everything I had hoped wasn't real. And you came here, I said slowly, because Liam's car was spotted again near that same warehouse earlier this week. Dwyer tapped a small notepad. We've been tracking patterns. Timing, movement. Routes, patterns. Words people use when they're building cases. My pulse was loud in my ears. And do you think he's in danger? I asked. We don't know, Mason admitted. But kids get pulled into things before they understand the consequences. We want to talk to him before someone else gets to him first. Someone else. Suddenly, the thunder outside didn't seem so distant. I moved to the kitchen table, hands trembling as I pulled out a chair. You said the warehouse had drug activity. So you think he's mixed up in? We don't know, Mason repeated gently. We're asking. My chest tightened. The officers exchanged a look, brief, coded. They knew more than they were saying. And I knew too little for my own comfort. What exactly was he exchanging? I asked. Dwyer exhaled slowly. We believe it may have been packages. Small ones. Wrapped in plastic. My heart jumped. A violent jolt that almost threw me off balance. Small packages. Wrapped in plastic. Exactly like the one I had moved from my backpack into Liam's car. I kept my face still. Neutral. But inside something was collapsing, an old floorboard giving way beneath too much weight. If your son shows up tonight, Dwyer said, you call us immediately. My silence must have looked like shock or fear, because Mason stepped slightly closer, voice low. Mr. Hayes, we're not the enemy here. We're trying to keep him from making a mistake he can't undo. I nodded, though I wasn't sure I believed him. Or maybe I didn't believe myself. Because the truth was turning into a shape I didn't recognize. A shadow stretching across the small room. Dwyer slipped a card onto the table. Creased edges, raindrop on one corner. Here's my direct line. Their boots thudded softly as they walked back toward the door, leaving the smell of wet fabric and official urgency behind. Outside, the rain had finally committed, pouring in long silver lines that blurred the world beyond the porch. Before stepping out, Dwyer paused. Mr. Hayes, if there's anything, you know that could help us find him faster, now is the time. For a moment I thought about telling him. About the package. About the shed. About the silent exchange Liam never verbalized. But then I saw my son at 8 years old, racing through sprinklers in the backyard. At 10, fishing beside me with a grin missing 2 teeth. At 16, crying quietly in the car after his mother left. The kid who used to come home and throw his backpack on the couch, shouting, Dad, look what I learned today. And I couldn't do it. Not then. Not like that. I don't know anything, I said quietly. Dwyer studied me for a moment, then nodded once. If he contacts you, call us. When the door closed behind them, the house felt hollow, like the officers had taken something with them, the last bit of certainty I'd had. Their car rolled out of the driveway, red taillights cutting through the rain, then fading into the dark. And I stood there staring at Liam's car. The package under the seat felt radioactive in my memory, buzzing like a trapped hornet. I stepped outside. The rain was cold and sharp, needling my skin. Gravel shifted under my boots as I walked toward his car again. Slower this time, every breath shallow. The wind carried something metallic, a scent that reminded me of the garage on its worst days, brakes failing, engines dying, the air thick with fumes and fear. I reached the driver's door, my fingers hovering over the handle. A sound from the road made me freeze. Tires splashing through puddles. Another car approaching. Too slow to be passing. Too deliberate. Headlights curved into view, sweeping across the trees like searching eyes. Not a police car. Not a neighbor. Something darker. Black paint glistening under the storm. The kind of car you don't see unless it wants to be seen. It slowed in front of my house. Stopped. The engine idled, humming low and dangerous. My breath fogged the window as I pressed closer to Liam's car, trying to see through the rain. The passenger window of the strange vehicle rolled down just enough to reveal a silhouette, broad shoulders motionless. Watching. A chill crawled up my spine. This wasn't the police. This wasn't a friend. This wasn't random. The gravel whispered again under the pouring rain as the black car crept forward, inching, until it was parked directly across from my driveway, facing Liam's car. Facing me. For a long moment nothing happened. No door opened. No voice called out. No window rolled further down. The figure simply waited. I felt the weight of my wet clothes, the thunder rolling overhead, the memory of Dwyer's warning whispering at the edges of my mind. Someone else might get to him first. Lightning flashed, silvering the street. And that's when I realized what terrified me most. Whoever sat in that black car wasn't waiting for Liam. They were waiting for whoever touched the car next. My hand was inches from the door handle. The rain hammered the ground around me. The street was empty except for me. And them. And in that breath suspended between choice and consequence, I understood. Whatever Liam had fallen into, whatever he had dragged into my life, was already watching, already closing in. And I was standing right in the center of it. The black car didn't move. Didn't need to. Its presence alone bent the air around it, pressing against me until my lungs forgot how to work. Rain beat hammered my shoulders, drenching my shirt, running into my eyes as I stared across the street at the silent vehicle that felt less like a car and more like a verdict. My hand hovered over Liam's door handle, too close to look innocent, too close to pretend I wasn't about to do something stupid. I let it fall back to my side slowly, like the tip of a match dropping beside a pool of gasoline. Lightning cracked. The silhouette inside the car shifted just enough to let me know he was adjusting. Still watching. Still waiting. I stepped back from Liam's car, slow measured. My boots sloshed in the gravel, the rain coming down hard enough now that every sound felt amplified, every movement magnified. It was like the whole night held its breath, waiting for me to misstep. The black car's engine growled. Not moving, just rumbling, a warning clearing its throat. I forced myself toward the house, pretending ignorance I didn't feel. The hair on my arm stood up like I was being tracked by a predator. Each step felt like a dare. Don't run. Don't look back. Don't show fear. I made it 3 feet before the car's headlights flared on, bright white punching straight through the rain. The beams hit my spine with a heat that wasn't heat at all, it was threat. I stopped. The rain hissed against the driveway. The night stilled. The world narrowed to 2 cars, one old man and a watcher. The passenger window of the black car rolled down once more, slow, deliberate, as if someone inside wanted me to hear every inch of glass sliding. I couldn't see their face. They wore the night like a hood, shadow swallowing whatever features the headlights didn't touch. A voice crawled out of the darkness. Calm. Low. Not loud, but cutting through the rain like a blade. Step away from the car. My blood iced. What? I called back, though I heard him perfectly. Walter Hayes, the voice said, my name tasting wrong in his mouth. Step away from your son's vehicle. My stomach flipped. He knew my name. Not a mistake. Not confusion. They were here for me. Who are you? I asked. A beat of silence then. Just step away. My foot slid back instinctively but slowly like I was standing on thin ice. What do you want? I tried again. The silhouette shifted. A lean forward and elbow braced. The suggestion of a hand near something I wished wasn't a gun. My heart punched my ribs in an uneven rhythm. We're not here for conversation, the voice said. We're here for what belongs to us. The package. The damn package. He was here for the thing I had moved. For a split second my brain spun. If they search the car, they'll find it. If they find it, they'll assume Liam has it. If they assume that, I've signed his death warrant. But if I tell them it's not his, I've signed my own. A door opened. The car didn't shake. The man inside was controlled, disciplined in the way only men used to violence are. A dark figure stepped out, rain sliding off a heavy coat that looked more military than civilian. He wasn't tall, but he was compact, built like someone who'd never lost a fight long enough to learn fear. His boots hit the road with intention. Another crack of thunder. Another silhouette moved in the back seat. My throat tightened. There were more. The man walked toward me, rain slicking his hair back, eyes sharp beneath the streetlight. When he stopped a few feet away, I saw a faint scar slicing across his jaw. A thin line. Pale. A reminder that this man didn't just walk through danger. He survived it. He didn't blink. He didn't flinch. He didn't bother with introductions. Open your son's car, he said. My pulse stumbled. I don't have a key on me. The lie slipped out with the ease of desperation. The man's jaw twitched once. Walter. My name again. Firmer. Open. The car. I said I don't. He cut me off by stepping closer. Rain ran down his face but never softened his expression. You were seen, he said quietly. We know you touched it. My breath froze. You were in the shed earlier. Liam put something in your pack. Then you moved it. We've been watching for hours. He tilted his head, studying me like a puzzle with only one missing piece. Now I want you to put your hands on the hood. My heart thundered so violently it felt like I might seize. Hands on the hood. Not an arrest. A search. A control move. Why? I asked, voice cracking. Because, he said, stepping even closer, I need to know you're not holding a weapon. A weapon. I thought of the officers who had just left. Of how close they'd been. Of how this man had probably watched them drive away like a hunter waiting for daylight to fade. I didn't move. Not out of defiance. But because fear glued his eyes sharpened. Walter. Last time. My hands shook as I slowly placed them on the cold metal of Liam's hood. Rain ran down my arms, filling the spaces between my fingers. Behind me I heard a car door shut. The second silhouette was moving. No, I whispered, please. But the first man didn't give me room to finish. He patted me down in fast, efficient motions. Not rough. Not sloppy. The way a man trained to find weapons without giving his target time to react. When he finished, he grunted. Clear. Relief didn't come. Because he turned immediately toward Liam's car and crouched. The second silhouette approached, tall, slender, a hood shielding their face. Drops of rain cascaded off the fabric like someone wringing out a towel. They reached out and opened Liam's car door. I didn't even hear an alarm. I hadn't thought to set one. Liam hadn't either. The inside light flicked on, revealing the familiar interior of the car. The hoodie. The fast food bag. The clutter of someone trying to pretend their life wasn't slipping. The slim figure ducked inside and began searching quickly, but with purpose. No rummaging. No hesitation. They knew exactly where to look. Seat pockets, floor mats, center console, glove box. My stomach dropped as they finally reached under the driver's seat. Their hand disappeared into the dark. Pulled something out. A plastic-wrapped brick. Gray. Tension humming off it like heat. I felt the world fall from under me. The first man exhaled sharply, something like satisfaction flickering in his eyes. Good, he said. We were worried the kid got sloppy. The slender silhouette stepped out and handed him the package. He weighed it in his palm like a jeweler judging a diamond. Then he looked at me. And everything changed. His expression didn't soften, but it shifted. Into recognition. Into annoyance? No. Worse. Something that said the story in his mind didn't match the... You weren't supposed to touch this, Walter. My veins iced. We didn't want you involved. He stepped closer. You weren't meant to see anything. Lightning flashed. He stared straight into me through me. We only needed the boy. Those words sliced every last shred of breath from my chest. Only the boy. My legs wobbled. You stay quiet, he said, turning away. Forget tonight. Forget we were here. He walked back toward the black car, the second figure following. I watched numbly as he opened the door, tossed the package inside, and paused once more in the rain. If your son reaches out, he said without turning around, tell him his deadline just ran out. The door slammed shut. The black car rolled forward silently, too silently, and pulled away into the storm, taillights vanishing into the curtain of rain until there was nothing left but the sound of water and a father frozen in the driveway. I stood there long after they disappeared, hands shaking, heart in freefall. Thunder rolled again somewhere across the sky, and I understood now. The police weren't the threat. Not even close. My son wasn't hiding from the law. He was hiding from them. And they weren't hunting the package, they were hunting him. The rain eased into a steady whisper, as if the storm itself had exhausted the strength to stay furious. But the quiet that followed wasn't peace. It was the thick, suffocating silence after an explosion, when the dust is still settling and you can't yet tell what survived. I stood there, drenched, staring at the empty road where the black car had vanished. My breath fogged in the cooling air. Each exhale sharp, shaky. My palms stung where I'd pressed them against the hood. My pulse thrashed through my veins like it didn't know which direction safety lived in anymore. Only the boy. Only the boy. The words clung to me like a cold hand around the spine. I didn't even realize I had been holding my breath until it burst out of me in a ragged exhale. My son, my kid, wasn't running from a mistake. He wasn't being careless with the wrong friends. He wasn't spiraling. He was being hunted. And not by the police. By men who operated in the dark. Men who showed up without headlights, without names, without hesitation. Men whose footsteps didn't splash, they cut through puddles like they were trained to move through anything. I forced myself back inside the house. Every inch of the living room felt wrong now, as if I were walking through a home that belonged to someone who hadn't yet realized their life was about to detonate. Water dripped from my hair onto the floor, forming small dark circles I didn't bother wiping. My hands shook uncontrollably. I gripped the counter, knuckles whitening against the formica, trying to anchor myself. Then my phone rang. Not a ringtone, just the short, sharp buzz of a text. I spun toward the table where it lay. The screen lit up. Unknown number. 2 words. He's late. My stomach dropped so violently I had to brace myself. Another buzz. Where is he? And then, you have 30 minutes. No threats. No explanations. No names. Just a countdown. I tried to swallow, but the taste in my mouth had turned metallic like fear and rust. They thought he was with me. They thought I was hiding him. They thought I was delaying. I grabbed the phone with trembling fingers and typed back. Who is this? Almost instantly. You know who this is. I didn't. But I didn't need to. The black car. The shadowed faces. The way they said his deadline had run out. My eyes darted to the clock on the stove. 10:14 p.m. 30 minutes meant 10:44 p.m. And deep down in the marrow of my bones I knew. This wasn't a deadline for negotiation. This was a deadline for survival. I tried calling Liam. No answer. Called again. Straight to voicemail. Called a third time. Nothing. Every ring felt like hitting a wall harder. My mind raced through memories, through possibilities, through every moment I might have seen a clue and ignored it. Why hasn't he answered? Was he hiding? Running? Already caught? Or worse? I grabbed my jacket, still soaked, still freezing, but didn't care. I needed keys, shoes, a plan. Something to hold on to before the night swallowed us both. My boots thudded across the floor. That's when I noticed it. The house phone's message light blinking red. I hadn't heard it ring in hours. Maybe the storm drowned the sound. Maybe fear had blocked everything out. I pressed the button. A beep. Then his voice. Dad, it's me. I froze. His voice was raw, breathless. Not scared, but something worse, torn between panic and guilt. Like someone running uphill with a broken rib. I don't know where else to go. I messed up. I messed up bad. A breath. Rain hitting metal somewhere in the background. If they come to the house, don't let them in. The ones in the black car. Please. Please don't talk to them. My fingers trembled. I didn't mean any of this. I thought it was easy. I thought I could handle it. I thought. His breath hitched. A muted crash. Footsteps. Dad, they're here. Static swallowed the rest. The message ended. My heartbeat stopped for a full second before crashing back into rhythm so violently it hurt. He knew them. He feared them. He had seen them. I replayed the message. And something inside me snapped into focus. Not clarity, not calm, but purpose. A raw primal instinct. The one fathers are born with and hope they never need. I grabbed the keys. Lightning flared. A loud thud hit the back door. Another thud. Heavier. Aggressive. Someone was at the back of the house. Not knocking. Testing. Trying. The rain outside masked most sounds, but that one cut straight through. I crept to the kitchen, peering past the curtains. At first, I saw nothing but shadows, tree branches shaking, raindrops streaking the glass. My breath fogged the window. Then a shape moved. Slow. Deliberate. A silhouette leaning near the back door, testing the handle. A dark figure pressed close enough that the outline of a shoulder, wide, muscular, etched itself into the window. He tried the door again. A jolt shot through me. They weren't done. They weren't satisfied. They'd come back. For clearance. For confirmation. For leverage. And I was still here. They got inside. If they searched. If they found anything. If they found me. It was over. For both of us. My hands tightened around the kitchen drawer handle until the wood creaked. I opened it silently. Inside, old scissors, a screwdriver, a flashlight. Nothing useful. Nothing that would matter against trained men in the dark. Another thud at the back door. Louder. He was forcing it now. I backed up slowly, heart thrumming in my throat. My knees shook so hard I almost stumbled into the counter. The back door rattled. Hard. Then, a metallic click. Not from the door, from outside. Someone else. A second figure approaching. Their voices whispered, hushed, sharp. Too muffled to understand, but fast, urgent. They hadn't expected resistance. They hadn't expected time pressure. They hadn't expected me to still be awake. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. 15 minutes left. I felt the walls tilt. The floor sway. My vision narrowing around those 4 words. 15 minutes. Another thud. Then silence. Then footsteps moving away. Toward the side of the house. Toward the shed. Toward the place I had first seen the package. They were searching. They were widening the circle. They were working fast. I needed to leave. Right now. I grabbed the flashlight, bolted to the front door, and slipped out into the night without letting the hinges creak. The cold slapped my face, rain soaking into my jacket again the moment I stepped outside. I crouched low, moving along the side of the house, keeping to the shadows. My boots slid slightly on the wet grass, forcing me to lean forward, palms brushing earth for balance. I could see them now, 2 shapes near the shed, one trying the door, the other scanning the yard like he expected movement. I moved faster. Around the front yard. Toward my truck. Every instinct screamed at me. Move. 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 The truck waited at the curb, silver paint reflecting streaks of lightning. I fumbled with the keys, hands shaking, breath coming fast. Another buzz. The phone nearly slipped from my grip. I glanced down. Unknown number. 10 minutes. This wasn't a warning. It was a promise. My chest heaved. I opened the truck door as quietly as I could and slid inside, slamming the lock button down with my palm. My breath fogged the windshield. My hands trembled violently on the wheel. I turned the key. The engine roared to life, and every head in the yard snapped toward the sound. One of the men shouted. The other sprinted. Flashlights flared toward me, beams slicing through the rain as they advanced. I jammed the truck into reverse, tires spinning in water, traction fighting mud. The truck lurched backward just as one of them reached the driveway. A light glinted in his hand. Not a flashlight. A weapon. A crack split the night. A gunshot swallowed her. My mirrors exploded in sparks of glass. I floored it. Gravel sprayed. Tires screamed. The truck shot backward onto the road, then fishtailed before straightening. Headlights cut through the darkness as I sped into the storm. Behind me, two silhouettes burst onto the street, shouting into radios, running toward a second vehicle hidden up the block. I saw the headlights flare on. They were getting in. They were coming. And somewhere out there, my son was alone, with 10 minutes left. Maybe less. And men with guns already hunting him. I gripped the wheel so tightly my knuckles burned. I didn't know where he was. I didn't know who they were. I didn't know why this started. But I knew one thing with bone-deep certainty. I was no longer running from them. I was racing to him. Before they did. Before the clock hit 0. Before the night decided whose son lived and whose father failed. The road unspooled before me like a wet ribbon, slick with rain and fractured by flashes of lightning that briefly illuminated everything I feared. Trees blurred past. Streetlights flickered like dying signals. My wipers beat furiously, trying to carve sight out of the storm. But nothing outside the windshield scared me as much as the thought of Liam alone in the dark. Scared, hunted, cornered. He'd called me. He'd chosen me. Even after the distance, the silence, the lies. Somewhere inside that terrified voice was still my boy. 10 minutes. The digits pulsed in my head like a metronome, counting down to something irreversible. I tried calling him again once, twice, 3 times. Voicemail. 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 Come on, kid, I whispered. Pick up. Pick up. He didn't. The storm swallowed every ring, mocking me. My eyes darted to the rearview mirror. Headlights. Far but not far enough to be random. 2 beams cutting through sheets of rain like knives. The same spacing, same height, same rhythm I'd seen earlier. They were coming. Not fast. Not reckless. Just close enough to keep me in reach. I turned onto the main road, the truck fishtailing for a second before gripping. Water splashed up in waves. I pressed harder on the gas. Think Walter, I muttered. Where would he go? What was he running from? My breath fogged the cab. Where had he always gone when life got too loud? Not the lake. Not the diner. Not the house. Then it hit me like a punch. The old metal span overlooking the ravine, our old spot. The place he'd go to clear his head as a teenager. The place he sat after his mother left, kicking gravel into the void like it might answer him back. He'd said on the message, I don't know where else to go. And that bridge. That was where lost things went to breathe. I jerked the wheel, cutting down the narrow county road that snaked toward it. The truck's tires hydroplaned for a terrifying half-second, but I held the wheel straight until they caught again. The pursuing headlights followed. Closer. Still calm. Still patient. Predators didn't need to rush. The rain thickened, turning the world into streaks of silver and shadow. My heart hammered so violently it shook my ribs. Another vibration buzzed against my leg. My phone. Not a text. A call. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. Static crackled, heavy, wet, like the sound of someone breathing through a soaked cloth. Then a voice. Not Liam's. Lower. Faster. Edged with panic. They found him. My grip on the wheel tightened. Who is this? Silence then. He shouldn't have run. They won't wait for the deadline anymore. A breath. A cough. A rustle like someone stumbling. He's not safe. Neither are you. My pulse surged. Where is he? Tell me where my son is. The voice. I told him not to take it. I told him it wasn't just a job. A choking sound. Pain lacing through every word. You have to get to him first. If they reach him. A violent thud cut the sentence in half. Gasp. Footsteps. A muffled shout in the background. The voice whispered, broken. Bridge the old. The line went dead. I slammed my fist against the steering wheel. Damn it. Snarled into the storm like it could spit Liam out in front of me. The bridge. It had to be the bridge. A flash of lightning tore open the sky. Ahead in the brief white glow, I saw the metal arch through the trees. The old structure crouched over the ravine like a giant ribcage, rainwater gushing down its beams. My headlights stretched long and thin across its slick surface. I took the turn too hard, the truck's back end swinging wide before snapping into alignment. The bridge's edges glowed faintly from my beams as I barreled toward it. The pursuing headlights appeared behind me, much closer now. They knew the destination too. My phone buzzed again. Another text. Unknown number. 5 minutes. A cold shiver raced down my spine. I tore across the bridge entrance. That's when I saw him. A figure in the middle of the span, standing under the downpour, soaked through, shoulders curled as if bracing against the entire world. My son, Liam. Alive. He turned toward my headlights, eyes wide, hand shielding his face. The moment he recognized me, his expression collapsed, not into relief but into something far more desperate. He ran toward me, waving his arms frantically. Dad! Don't! Before he could finish, another set of headlights exploded onto the bridge from the opposite side. Black car. The same one. Blocking the exit. My heart lurched. They'd flanked him. And now they'd flanked us. The truck skidded to a halt. I shoved the door open, stumbling into the rain, shouting his name. Liam. He sprinted toward me, sneakers slipping on the slick steel, breath ragged. The black car's doors opened in unison. 2 men stepped out. The same 2. Relentless. Cold. Hunters who had finally cornered their prey. Dad! Liam screamed. Run! But I didn't move. I couldn't. Because in that moment, seeing him soaked, trembling, terrified, I understood something with brutal clarity. He wasn't afraid for himself. He was afraid for me. The 2 men walked toward us, rain dripping off their coats like they were shedding the storm. Their faces were stone. Their pace steady. No weapons drawn, because they didn't need them yet. The first man, the scarred jaw, raised his voice over the rain. Walter, he said calmly, as if addressing a neighbor. Step aside. Lightning cracked, illuminating everything. The bridge. My son. The men. The drop below. I stepped forward instead. No. The man paused. He didn't blink. He studied me. Rain streamed over his expressionless face. Last chance, he said. Behind me I heard the roar of another engine. The truck behind us, the one following, had reached the bridge entrance. We were boxed in, front and back. No escape. Liam pulled at my arm. Dad, please let me handle it. I turned to him. His eyes wide, terrified, pleading, were the eyes of a boy who had finally realized he'd gone too far. What did you do? I whispered. He swallowed hard. I wasn't supposed to take it, he said, voice breaking. It wasn't drugs. It wasn't money. The scarred man took a step closer. Walk away, Walter. I clenched my fists. What was in the package? I demanded. Liam shook his head hard, blinking rain from his lashes. It's worse. He leaned closer, voice barely audible over the storm. They said it was just a delivery job. But it wasn't merchandise, Dad. A trembling breath. It was information. I frowned. What kind of information? He looked up at me, eyes filled with something between shame and terror. The kind people kill for. The scarred man stopped a few feet away and tilted his head. Time's up, kid. Lightning. Thunder. Rain hammering steel. The second man stepped forward. And in that moment, the real storm began. Rain hammered the bridge like it was trying to beat the truth out of us. The 2 men advanced, each step measured, each breath controlled. Liam stood beside me, shaking, his soaked hoodie clinging to him like gravity wanted him on his knees. Dad, he whispered. I never meant for you to get dragged into this. I kept my eyes on the men. You're my son. That's all that matters. He swallowed hard. They don't just deal in drugs or cash. They move intel. Digital. Sensitive. They steal from one buyer, sell to another. Passwords. Access codes. Blackmail files. I felt the air leave my lungs. Information. Not drugs. Not money. Something far more dangerous. What was in the package? I asked quietly. Liam swallowed. A drive. Encrypted. I didn't know until after. I thought it was just another drop. They told me it was harmless. But you panicked, I said. You tried to get rid of it. He nodded. I hid it. They found out. They said I had one last chance to return it. And you put it in my backpack, I realized, the pieces clicking into place. I thought they'd search me, he said, voice cracking. I didn't want to die. A thunderclap rolled across the ravine. The scarred man stepped forward, lifting a small tracking device. "You didn't think we'd follow it?" he said. "Kids always think they're smarter than they are." Liam's breathing sped up. "Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I grabbed his shoulder. "Listen to me. You made a mistake, not a death sentence." The second man reached for his jacket, for a weapon. I stepped in front of my son. "Stop right there," I said. Scarjaw's voice remained calm. "Move aside, Walter. This isn't your fight." "It is now," I replied. He sighed, almost disappointed. "You shouldn't have touched the drive. It flagged your address the moment you moved it." A cold wave rolled through me. "It wasn't meant for you," he continued. "But now you're both liabilities." Liam's grip on my sleeve tightened. "Dad." Before he could finish, tires screeched behind us. The other car, the one tailing me, slid onto the bridge, blocking our retreat. For a split second I thought it was more of them. But then, red and blue lights erupted across the steel beams. Police. The officers from earlier. Sergeant Dwyer stepped out, gun drawn, shouting commands that ripped through the storm. "Hands where we can see them." Mason flanked him, weapon raised. The black carmen stiffened, calculating. Their eyes flicked between each other, the police, and the narrow space between escape and confrontation. Scarjaw whispered, "This just got complicated." He reached into his coat. Dwyer aimed higher. "Don't you dare." The air froze. Rain hung suspended. No one breathed. Then Scarjaw dropped something metal, not a gun but a small jammer device. It clattered, slid across the wet steel, and stopped near my boot. "We'll see you both again," he said calmly. Then, in a single rehearsed motion, both men retreated to the black car, slammed their doors shut, and reversed so fast the vehicle skidded before disappearing into the storm. Dwyer hit past us, shouting into his radio. "Unit pursuit. They're heading eastbound, bridge exit." Sirens erupted in the distance. Soon they faded, leaving only the rain, the bridge, and my son, collapsed into my arms, shaking like he was made of shattered glass. Mason holstered his weapon and stepped closer. "Mr. Hayes." "Liam, you two need to come with us." Liam looked up, rain mixing with tears. "Dad, I didn't mean for any of this." I pulled him close. "I know." But inside my chest, one truth hit harder than the storm. This wasn't over. Not even close. The men weren't just criminals. They were professionals. Organized. Connected. And they weren't done hunting. They had lost the drive. They had lost the boy. They had lost time. And men like that don't lose twice. By the time we were ushered into the back of the patrol car, the storm had softened into a cold mist. Liam sat beside me, soaked pale, hands clenched together so tightly the knuckles shone white. He looked younger than he had in years, like the boy who used to ask if monsters were real. Turns out he wasn't wrong. Dwyer slammed the door behind us, walked around to the front, and got behind the wheel. His expression was tight, jaw locked, eyes flicking constantly between the mirror and the rain-slicked road ahead. Mason climbed into the passenger seat, radio crackling beside him. Unit 5 in pursuit. Suspects evading to the east side of the ravine. No visual. Static. More static. Then nothing. Dwyer cursed under his breath. Liam flinched. "They'll come back," he whispered. "I know," I said quietly. Dwyer glanced at us through the rearview mirror. "You two need to be straight with me. Those men weren't amateurs." "Who are they?" Liam swallowed. I don't know their names. They don't use them." "How'd you get involved?" He stared. "A friend introduced me. Said it was easy money. Just deliveries. No questions. No danger." I closed my eyes, my heart cracking at the stupidity and desperation in that choice. Dwyer continued, voice firm. "And the package?" "The drive," Liam whispered. "It wasn't supposed to go to them. Someone double-crossed someone. I didn't know. I thought it was harmless." "Was it stolen?" Liam nodded. "From someone way bigger. Way more dangerous." Dwyer's jaw tightened. "Bigger than those men?" Liam's eyes flicked to me, then to the window. "Yeah." Silence filled the car. The kind that isn't quiet at all, just packed with consequences. Dwyer exhaled slowly. "We'll get you both somewhere safe. We'll contact Federal." A burst of static cut him off. The radio crackled. Then a voice came through low, distorted. Not police. Bring him to us. Mason whipped around. Who the hell? Static swarmed again, drowning the voice. Then a final whisper slid through. Walter. We're not done. A chill clawed up my spine. They hacked the frequency. Even the police weren't safe. Dwyer slammed his fist on the dash. Damn it. That wasn't our channel. They piggybacked the signal. Liam shrank back against the seat. I leaned forward. How good are these men? Dwyer didn't answer right away. Finally. Good enough to make this a federal situation. We turned off the main road, tires hissing on the slick pavement as we headed toward town. The patrol car's interior lights flickered with each lightning flash. Liam broke the silence. I didn't know who I was stealing from, he said quietly. I swear I didn't. One of the guys I worked with said it was government stuff. Classified. Something people would pay millions for. My stomach flipped. Liam, I whispered. He shook his head. I thought it was real. I didn't think it mattered. Dwyer muttered something into the radio again, voice tight. That drive, Liam said, voice cracking, has encryption keys, security codes, entry routes. Whoever has it could break into. He stopped himself. Dwyer looked back at him. Break into what? Liam hesitated. A government database, he whispered. A restricted one. My pulse hammered. Mason turned in his seat. Which one? Liam stared at the floor. The one for witness protection. The car froze. Not physically, but the air inside it went still. Dwyer's hands tightened on the wheel. Say that again. Liam's voice shook. I didn't know at first. I only found out when they told me what I'd stolen. They ordered me to bring it back. Said if I didn't, they'd come after me. And if they get it? Mason asked, breath barely controlled. They could find anyone, Liam whispered. Anyone hidden. Anyone protected. Dwyer swore under his breath. Jesus Christ. The pieces fell together fast and violently. Those men weren't dealers. They weren't street criminals. They were hunters. Information brokers. Professional extractors. They were after the drive not to sell it, but to use it. To expose witnesses. Informants. Protected identities. And Liam was the loose end. Dwyer made a sharp turn. We're not going to the station. If they can jam our radios, they can breach the precinct lines too. Where are we going? I asked. A temporary safe site, he said. Until backup arrives. As we sped through the rain, Liam leaned closer to me. Dad, he whispered, breath trembling, there's something else. What? He swallowed. Hard. The drive wasn't the only thing I took. What else? I demanded. He held my gaze only for a second before looking down again. A name, he whispered. I memorized it. In case they killed me. Dwyer stiffened. Mason went pale. What name? I asked. Liam looked up. His eyes filmed with rain and terror. The name of someone in witness protection. Someone high level. Someone important. My heart thudded painfully. Before I could speak, he added. It's someone you know. Everything inside me turned to ice. The truck behind us suddenly sped up. Lights flaring. Approaching fast. Dwyer cursed. They're back. The black car appeared ahead on the road. Boxing us in. Again. But this time they weren't here to threaten. They were here to take. Or kill. The patrol car skidded as Dwyer hit the brakes. Tires screaming against wet pavement. Ahead. The same black car. Idling sideways across the road like a barricade made of intention. Behind. The second vehicle that had been tailing us. Lights flaring. Engine roaring. We were boxed in again. Only this time there was no bridge, no distance, no storm-drenched delay. They were done playing. Dwyer swore, slamming the shifter. Everyone stay down. But before he could floor it, the black car's back door opened. Scarjaw stepped out. No rush. No panic. Just the cold certainty of a man who knew the ending and was walking into it. He raised both hands, not to surrender, but to show he wasn't holding a weapon. Yet. Walter, he called through the rain. Bring the boy out. We have no interest in you. Beside me, Liam trembled violently. Not just fear, regret. Raw slicing guilt. I didn't know, Dad, he whispered. I swear I didn't know who the name belonged to. What name? I asked, voice tight. He squeezed his eyes shut. Rainwater or tears didn't matter. The second man approached our rear doors, steps sharp, boots splashing. Mason raised his gun. Stay back. Scarjaw didn't even flinch. You can't protect him, he said calmly. We don't need the drive anymore. We traced what he knows. The words landed like thunder. We don't need the drive anymore. They wanted the name. The one Liam memorized. Scarjaw locked his eyes with mine. Hard. Unblinking. Let the kid out, he repeated. Or both of you die. Dwyer leaned over his seat toward us. Walter, listen carefully, he said, voice low. They don't bluff. They kill witnesses, family, anyone connected. Then, he reached for the radio again. Static. Then, a voice broke through, faint but clear enough. Units inbound. Hold position. Backup. Finally. But by the time they arrived, could be too late. The second man yanked on our rear door handle. Locked. He slammed a fist into the window. The glass shuttered. Liam curled inward. I placed myself between him and the window instinctively. Old instincts. Father instincts. In the reflection on the glass, I saw Scarjaw's expression shift. Not anger, not impatience. Recognition. He lowered his chin, studying me through the storm. No wonder he protected you, he said. My heartbeat stuttered. What? I asked. Scarjaw took one slow step closer. The wind carried his voice right to the car. Walter Hayes, you weren't supposed to be alive. A cold wave ripped through me. What are you talking about? I whispered. He exhaled, almost pitying. Your name was on that drive. The world tilted. My breath vanished. Liam choked on a sound, pain, realization. Dad, the witness and protection. He swallowed hard, staring at me like he was seeing a stranger. That name I memorized. Nerve frozen. Who? His voice cracked. It was yours. Silence. Hard. Final. Devastating. Scarjaw nodded once, confirming it with terrifying calm. You testified 20 years ago, he said. Put away men with long memories in deeper pockets. You disappeared. New address. New county. New identity. My vision blurred. Rain? Shock? Memory? I whispered. I was told no one survived that case. Scarjaw's lips thinned. Surprises happen. Liam stared at me like the world had cracked under our feet. All this time, he whispered. All this time you were. I didn't want you in danger, I said, voice breaking. I thought, if I raised you quiet, small, unseen. He shook his head violently. I found the name on accident. I thought it was a really important witness. I didn't know it was you. Scarjaw took another step forward. Bring him out, Walter, he said. Your son has something that does not belong to him. Mason raised his weapon again. Back up. Dwyer's grip tightened on the wheel. We're outgunned. Outnumbered. Scarjaw's eyes never left mine. Walter, he said softly. You were supposed to die years ago. Tonight, someone finishes the job. Another car's headlights exploded over the hill behind them. A third vehicle. Bigger. Faster. Headlights strobing through the storm. For a moment Scarjaw turned. Dwyer saw the opening. Now, he shouted. He slammed the patrol car into reverse, tires screaming. The second man dove aside. Scarjaw reached into his coat. A shot rang out. Glass exploded. Liam screamed. Mason fired back. The patrol car fishtailed. And the whole world erupted into motion. The patrol car lurched, tires skidding on the wet asphalt. The shattered back window sprayed across us, sparkling like shattered ice before collapsing into the floorboards beneath our boots. Down! Mason shouted, twisting in his seat, firing 3 rounds out the rear window. Flash! 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 Scarjaw dove behind the black car, rain slicing around him like silver shards. His partner fired back, bullets cracking through the storm, ricocheting off metal, punching holes through the trunk. I shielded Liam with my body, feeling him trembling beneath my arms. One of the shots hit so close that I felt the air ripple past my ear. The third car barreled down the hill now, big, armored-looking, with high beams flaring like a battering ram made of light. Dwyer shouted into the radio. Back up now. Shots fired. The static swallowed his voice. The armored vehicle didn't slow. It slammed into the black car blocking the road. A full-force collision. Metal shrieked. Rubber screamed. The black sedan spun sideways, sparks sprang like fireworks. Scarjaw rolled clear, narrowly missing the crushing impact. The armored vehicle, black-tinted windows, swung to a stop. Its doors flew open. Men poured out. Not Scarjaw's men. Not police. Federal jackets. Bright, unmistakable letters across their chests. U.S. Marshals. My pulse flipped. Witness protection. They weren't here for Liam. They were here for me. For the man who was never supposed to resurface. For the secret that had suddenly been dragged into the open. 2 marshals rushed toward the patrol car with weapons raised. Get out. Hands visible. Dwyer yelled, they're with U.S. Mason kept firing at Scarjaw's partner. Rain turned each muzzle flash into a strobe of fire. I pushed the door open, dragging Liam with me. Stay behind me, I whispered. I'm sorry, Dad. He choked, voice splintering. Later, I whispered. Stay alive first. The marshals reached us, grabbing my arm and Liam's, yanking us behind their vehicle. Shots cracked again as Scarjaw fired from behind the wreckage. One marshal shouted, he's going for the ravine. Scarjaw sprinted through the rain toward the guardrail, dove over, and vanished into darkness. Another shot. His partner tried to escape in the other car, but Dwyer's truck blocked the road. Mason fired once. The rear tire exploded. The car spun out and slammed against the embankment. The man stumbled out, hands raised. The marshals swarmed him. It was over. Not quietly, not cleanly, but over. Rain slowed to a cold drizzle. The ravine below gurgled with runoff. Flashing lights painted broken metal in red and blue. Voices shouted commands, updates, calls for medics. But all I saw was Liam. He sat on the ground, soaked to the bone, shaking with something deeper than fear. A marshal wrapped a blanket around him, hands gentle, voice low. I knelt in front of him. Look at me, son. He lifted his head slowly. Tears mixed with rain on his cheeks. I almost got you killed, he whispered. I didn't know. You didn't, I said. And that's enough. No, he sobbed. I should have trusted you. I should have told you. Instead, I dragged you into something you were never meant to face again. A bitter laugh escaped me, a broken thing. Liam, everything you did tonight? I've lived pieces of it before. You're not the reason it resurfaced. I touched his shoulder. Someone wanted this secret found again. Someone bigger. He collapsed into my arms, crying against my chest. A marshal approached us. Mr. Hayes, he said. We need to talk. Your cover is blown. I held Liam tighter. What happens now? You come with us. Both of you. We'll relocate you. Liam lifted his head, eyes red. Relocate us? As in witness protection. Yes, the marshal said. Tonight proved the threat is active. And they'll come back. I glanced at my son's trembling face. New names. New home. New life. Do we have a choice? I asked. The marshal looked at the wrecked cars, the shattered glass, the bullet casings. No, he said. Not anymore. Liam's hand found mine. Wherever we go, he whispered, I'm with you. I squeezed his fingers. We go together, I said. A second marshal approached with a blanket for me. Sir, he said quietly, the man who went over the ravine? We haven't found a body. My stomach sank. Scarjaw had vanished. Not dead, not captured. Loose. But even as dread curled in my gut, I looked at my son, the same boy who once needed help tying his shoes, now clinging to me like I was the last true thing in his world. And a truth settled into me. Fear could chase us. Danger could hunt us. But I wasn't losing him. Not again. Not ever. We stood, wrapped in blankets, ready to disappear. Ready finally to rebuild. Together. We left our old lives behind at dawn. New names. New keys. New shadows to outrun. My son once slipped something dangerous into my backpack, not knowing he was holding the match to a past I'd buried deep. But I put it in his car because I thought I was teaching him a lesson. In the end, he taught me one instead, that you can't outrun truth, but you can face it together. And sometimes